Welcome back to Waters Ironworks. We are going to do a tool review on this Blacksmith Depot guillotine that I bought about a year ago. It has been something that I've used a fair bit over the last year, so I feel like now's a good time to revisit the tool. I will drop a link or put around here somewhere a link to the original unboxing video if you want to watch that. Guillotine tools, if you're not familiar with what they are and what they do, the basic idea is that you have a tool like this that has slots in it for a bottom die and a top die, and so those can drop in like this. Let me turn this around and face you so you can see it. And what you're going to do is you're going to take a piece of steel and you're going to put it in, and then you hammer down on the top die. The reason they're called guillotines, right, is it's kind of the chopping the head off sort of tool, where this drops down and it's doing the work for you. There is a lot that you can do with these tools. They make a lot of forging activities a lot easier. They are, and you can certainly make your own. There are a lot of videos and plans on how to do that. Buying them, they're not cheap. This Blacksmith Depot guillotine, along with one of every one of the dies that they have, and we'll talk about each of the dies individually, I think it was about $1,000. So it's a pretty substantial investment when you get into it. But for certain activities, it just makes them so much easier, so much faster, so much more repeatable, that it's a worthwhile investment. It's not the first thing that I'm going to recommend that a new blacksmith go out there and get, but as your career advances, it is definitely something that you're going to want to pick up, just so that you've got the speed and you can do things more quickly. So let's talk about kind of why you would use this and the different dies that it comes with. The basic idea is if you are putting fullers or notches in on two sides of a bar at the same time, the blacksmith or the guillotine is going to help you out there. And this one from Blacksmith Depot, it's solid. You know, it's held up well over the years. You will need an Allen wrench to put it together, which it doesn't come with, as well as a socket wrench, both of which you are probably already going to have. Some Loctite is maybe not a bad idea, especially where these screws are going in to kind of hold things together. They do tend to come loose if you don't have some Loctite or something in there holding it closed. As you're hammering on the dies, you're putting a lot of force and it shakes, and those screws will come loose on you. So a little bit of Loctite will take care of that. But like I was saying, what this is used for is fullering in on two sides at once, or making a cut through steel from two sides at once. You can do the same thing. Let me grab something and I'll show you. So what I was looking for there is a spring fuller. This one's a little bent out of shape here. But the Blacksmith Depot guillotine, any guillotine, and the fuller kind of accomplish some of the same goals, right? If I take a look at this large round die here, which is a 1/2 inch round die, and I think this is 1/2 inch square stock. Both of these are going to do the same thing. If I put a piece of steel in here, hammer down on it, it's going to hammer on both sides of those at the same time. You can get the same effect with the 1/2 inch die here from the Blacksmith Depot guillotine. What the guillotine's going to do that is a lot harder to do with a spring swage like this is some of these other dies. So we've got a wide variety of dies here, and hopefully you're able to see that in the video, where there's a cutting surface on one side, and then there's a gap here that is raised up from the foot. So if I grab the opposite side of this, it's a 3/8 inch one here, get kind of close so you can see. So these two are going to go together like this in the Guillotine. And what it does is it gives you a 3/8 inch gap here and then a 3/8 inch gap here. So I can take a larger piece of stock, put it in, and then cut a shoulder that's 3/8 of an inch. I can then use this flat section here in order to draw out the material past that cut all the way down to 3/8 of an inch, so that I've got a nice round 3/8 inch section, or square 3/8 inch section, from shouldered off from a larger material. This is incredibly useful when you're making tenons, or you're going to rivet something and you want to create a shoulder and then use the tenon in order to rivet two pieces together. Can you do this over the edge of the anvil? Yeah. Is it harder? It definitely is, right? You have to have some pretty accurate hammer blows as you're doing that set down. There's a lot of a chance for some missed blows and messing things up. This is pretty surefire and works well every time. So we'll actually take a look at how to use this tool in order to make a tenon. That'll be kind of the demo portion of this. With these kits, if you buy all of the sizes for these kind of tenoning, you get a 1/4 inch, a 3/8 inch, a 1/2 inch. On the round dies, you get a 1/2 inch. What is this one? A 1/4 inch. And then this one here is actually a side cutter. So, right, if you got your Hardy tool, your cut-off Hardy tool, depending on how you grind it, or using something like this, you can set it up so that as you cut through a piece of steel, you get one side that's flat and all of the angle is on the other piece. And that's what this is used for. So if I want to cut something where I've got a flat side, actually I'll draw this here. Right, I've got my bar of steel. And if I've got a cutter that's shaped like a V, as this goes through, what you're going to wind up with, right, if I cut through from both sides, is a bit of an angle on each side. Using a side cutter like this, or a hot cut that's sharply angled, where you've got a shape like this, right, and for the Guillotine tool, you're going to have another shape like this. As this goes down and it cuts, you wind up with a cut that matches that shape. So if you need something where you're cutting off a chunk and you want a flat end here, this lets you put all the kind of angle from the cut onto the waste, the throwaway piece that you're not going to be using. So it gives you a nice flat edge. Again, you can do similar things with Hardy tools if you ground them correctly, handheld hot cuts, things like that. The Guillotine tool just gives you a lot of control, makes it very easy in order to do that in a repeated, consistent way. And if you are a smith who's doing a lot of work, you got to do a lot of cuts, you want to do them quickly, then this is going to be a tool that saves you a lot of time. So, it's a great tool. I'm very happy with the purchase, even though it was reasonably expensive. Everything has held up well to a fair bit of use. I do use a brass hammer on them, since these are, I think, S7 steel or some pretty hard steel. I want to make sure that I'm not messing up my hammers or these. They beat up your brass hammer pretty good. There is no doubt about that. I see a fair number of flakes flying off the brass hammer as I'm hammering away on it, but that's what brass hammers are there for and what they should be used for. So let's get the forge fired up, and we will use one of these tenoning dies and maybe one of the fullering dies to show you guys how it works and what it's used for. This ability to fuller and isolate material is just hugely useful as a blacksmith. I use it all the time in things as diverse as making spoons, making multi-part roses. You'll use it in just anywhere where you want, even decorative elements, right? If you've got a long handle on something, putting a couple fullers in to give it some visual interest can really kind of step up the level of quality in the material that you're producing. And this is going to come in super useful for that. So let's, like I said, get the forge going, get some steel heated up. I'll show you guys what this looks like in use and give you my final impressions on it. And I think I've already said I would recommend buying it, so I won't give you a final recommendation because I think if you are looking for guillotines, you're going to be pretty happy with this one. You can make your own and certainly do it for cheaper, especially if you have access to welding equipment. Go look on videos for that. But if you want to buy one off the shelf so that you're not messing around making your own, this is a great option. All right, I'll see you guys once the forge is going. All right, so let's take a look at how this works. I've got a piece of flat bar in there. I've got a 1/4 inch tenoning die in the guillotine. We're going to pull this out, set it in. I want to give it a good initial hit here. Make sure that I'm staying right in that same groove. You can see what I've got now is a very nice, very even fuller end from each side. This is, like I was saying before, really useful, right? I can now take this if I want to put a twist in it, or if I want to spread the material out. Maybe I'm going to make a spoon. I'll spread all this material out here at the end in order to form my spoon shape. This part becomes the handle. This ability to isolate material, do so accurately, is great. Like I said, you can do some of this stuff with the spring fuller as well. I find it's not quite as accurate as the guillotine. I've got another piece heating up. I'm going to grab one of the tenoning dies and we'll put that in and I'll show you guys how that works as well. I've got a piece of 1/2 inch steel here that's been heating up. I've got a 1/4 inch tenoning die in. Bring that out. I'm going to put it on the cutoff side first. Set it right there and give it a good strong hit. Rotate this. Rotate it again. I want to make sure I've got all the corners cut in. Let's pull it out and take a look at what we've got. So you can see now what I've got is a pretty nice shoulder, right? All the angle is going into the tenon. The shoulder is pretty straight, and a lump of material here at the end. I'm going to get this hot again, bring it back out, and I'm going to put it in this flat section and start hammering down. That gives me a 1/4 inch gap, and I can draw this material out into a 1/4 inch tenon. Drop it in here. Start flattening this out. Flip it over. We'll take another heat on this to finish it up, but you can see we're starting to draw it down to that 1/4 inch and leaving the parent stock alone. Put it back in there. Let's keep working it. So you can see we can keep going there. And it's real easy to tell, right, once I've got the steel in there and this gap disappears, that means I'm down to that 1/4 inch. I'm going to do a couple heats off camera here, finish this up, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. All right, so I'm going to take one last hit on this in the guillotine tool and show you guys what it looks like. I did chop off about half of it. I tendoned off way too much initially, and it was getting pretty long. So we'll bring it over here. One final little cleanup pass. There we go. So you can see what we wound up with here is a nice shoulder, a tendon coming out. If I was going to take this maybe and set, you know, this was a rivet or not a rivet, a fence or something like that. I was going to take another piece along, set it down. I can now pass this through, have it sit on the shoulder, tendon that down or rivet that down, and it's nice and securely attached. There's a monkey tool that you can use to clean up that shoulder even more. We'll take a look at that in a future video at some point. But again, overall, guillotine tools are really nice. They're great to have. This Blacksmith Depot one has held up well. It's a good tool. I would recommend it. If you don't get this one, figuring out some way to get a hold of a guillotine tool is a good choice. Thank you guys so much for this tool review video. We will see you again next week. Happy forging.